Okay. What is? They can't hear me, can they? Wait. It says there's voice going through. Wait. It says there's voice going through. Wait. It says there's voice going through.
Turn your sound off.
I just had to switch to
Now it's paused. Can you guys? Okay. We're good. You can hear now. Good. Okay. Good. Good. Okay. We'll get started in half a second here. Does everyone have the code? See, I've got this playing. Wait, does it show the pin on the thing? It is showing the pin?
Yes.
How do I have that going?
Yes, it is.
What in the world?
It says I'm in. I already it's fun for my nickname.
Wait, this is me currently, but I have no idea what's going on, guys. Well, I feel like I'm in a time warp.
Is it not supposed to?
Yeah, because then we get
Yeah.
people.
Face and screen. Oh, I'm showing the screen apparently. But, well, let's just cross our fingers. So I must have changed the broadcast, but okay. So now it's just me. Okay, let's hope we don't crash. Okay. Okay, you guys about ready to start here? Sorry for the delay. Thank you guys for waiting up. Okay, so I need my chatters in the room to tell me what. So I'm going to turn my volume down. Let's start here. Yeah, don't say the code out loud, even though we just displayed it.
Secret information.
Yeah. So, you guys, how many people do we have in the Kahoot right now?
It seems that we have 21.
21 in the Kahoot?
Oh, wait, in the Kahoot?
Yeah, how many people are in the Kahoot? Let's get Alex to be a mod. Add moderator.
It doesn't tell me.
It doesn't tell you. I'll look at the Kahoot.
I should be in it.
Oh, look at this. We got a lot of people. We got 15 people. Oh yeah, I think we're ready to go on the Kahoot, right? You guys ready to do the Kahoot? Are you guys ready to start it up?
I clicked spin and it gave me
Hey, so I think we're ready to start. Can we get some, yeah, we're ready to start here? I think it's like 3:30, is it? We're doing fine on time. Thank you guys for staying around. I had a meeting right there and got some soda. You guys notice, like, look, there's a, like, 5-6 second delay.
Yeah.
Which whenever I ask stuff, yeah. Okay, let's get started. It's fun times, right? So thank you guys so much, and let's get started here. And we got 17 people in. And so now I'm going to start broadcasting the Kahoot with the face and the screen. So here we go right here. And probably it's going to be easier if I go over to the Kahoot and wait, Kahoot. Sorry, guys. Okay, wait. What? Okay, you ready? We're on the first question, right? Can you guys see the first question? Tell me when you guys can see it. Well, you guys are hearing it now. So here's the story. Does it show what I'm showing right now on there?
I'm not watching your YouTube. I'm showing it on your screen.
Okay. No, they have to hear what the story is. So here it is. And do you have it pulled up on your phone? You can see it. They can see it on the YouTube channel. So here's the question. Sorry for everyone. I hope people haven't clicked in. When you're walking through the woods, what do you often see? You see a lot of twigs, right? And so with what you see out in the woods, with a lot of twigs just out there, what would the null hypothesis be for something being on the ground? That it's a snake or a twig? What would you assume? What would you assume if you see a lot of twigs on the ground? Probably everything's a what? A twig. You would need evidence it's a snake. Does that make sense? So what's the null here? The null here is that something out in the woods is a twig. So the alternative would be it's a snake. So think using your type 1, type 2 error. Sorry, I can't see what I'm saying to you guys right now. We're in a different area doing it today. But using a type 1, type 2 error. In a type 1 error, say it with me, the null is what? In a type 1 error, the null is what? True. So you guys are going to have to tell me how those YouTubers are doing if they have questions. I won't be able to see questions, so you guys help me out with it. But in a type 1 error, the null is true. So if the null is true, what does that mean here? That this is what?
It's a twig.
So it actually is a twig, but you think it's a what?
Snake.
Snake, yes. They're on the delay. We're going to start to see some answers here. I'm going to try to log in also so I can see the chat. So here I'm logging in too, guys. We're doing this a little bit differently today, so I'm not used to this because I can't see what you guys are saying on a second screen today. So I'm logging into Stat201 UTK, and I'm going to watch it on my phone and hopefully be able to see the chats, videos. So we're going to try to do this live here. Does it not show that I'm streaming? Can I not watch my own stream? So you guys tell me if the onliners have questions. Were they able to see the question? Onliners, what are you thinking?
No, they said they can't see it.
They can't see the, okay. Then we must not be broadcasting. Oh, are they still just seeing this right here?
Yes.
What happened? Why is it only showing this right now? This is weird, right? Oh, it's this one It says I'm streaming. Stop streaming, start recording. Can I see what's being seen on YouTube? Let's see. Wait, it shows 0 players in the Kahoot? What is going? We had 6 answers. Here, wait. Okay, we're gonna start this Kahoot over again.
I'm confused.
I'm confused too.
Aquatic alpaca is confused.
Alright, sorry guys. This is not where I usually stream from. All I see is the pin. Yeah, I know. It just shows the pin and shows me. And that's not even what do you see my tabs up here at the top?
Yes.
And those aren't even the tabs I have right now. Yeah, I'm gonna try to fix this, Maya. Sorry guys. Here's face cam. Here's welcome. Oh, you know what I think it is? There's that. What is it? Why is it showing this right here? Give me 2 minutes, guys. I'm gonna try to figure out what's going on here. We're gonna have to reset the pin. I think we might just announce it on YouTube. But you see it says 0 players. Do you guys, and I don't even have the Kahoot going anymore. I have to log back into Kahoot here for a second. Why am I not broadcasting that screen? So, sorry guys. You know what it might be? It might be confused because I've got 2 screens going. I don't usually broadcast out on this one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this, and then I think this might fix it. I think I just fixed it. I know that looked crazy, and I know. So I think we fixed the problem. I don't usually stream this way, so I can't even stream that way. So they're still seeing it on YouTube, right? They're still seeing it all.
Yep.
They're probably seeing the screen right now, right?
Yep.
We'll just go to face. All right. So we figured it out. I think the screen was frozen on it. So, hey guys, we're going to announce this Kahoot code and we're going to restart this. So, sorry about that. Just the difference is streaming. We got the problem figured out. It was, you do one thing different, right? And it changes everything. So here we go. We're going to announce the Kahoot code in the chat, just the easiest way for us to do this. So hopefully we don't have too many crazy people. The Kahoot code in the chat is, it's connecting. I'm going to put it right in the chat. So worst idea ever, right? So, oh, what did I just send? I just sent the link code. Where's my, one moment, I have the Kahoot code up and ready. And come on. Sorry guys for all the craziness here. Really? I'm just trying to copy this code. One moment, we are sending the Kahoot code. All right, there's the Kahoot code right there. Does everyone have the Kahoot code? The code did change, Kelsey, and then we should have everything. And what I need my people here to do is, if there's a question, I need you guys to read me whatever question there is in the chat. So, do you guys have the new Kahoot code? It's in the chat right now. We've got people joining in with the code. The chat is on YouTube.
On the side of the
Yeah.
thing.
So what you should be doing right now is you should have your computer with YouTube going. And you should have your phone, so you'll see the questions as I display them. Does that all make sense? Usually I do it at my place where I have 2 screens, but I can't do that here apparently. I don't usually broadcast from here. So I'm learning something new. Thank you for bearing with me. We're getting started at 3:30. So we got this all figured out now, and we'll cut the first start of that video. But apparently when I broadcast that TV, it froze the screen, and it wasn't broadcasting in the way I thought it was. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that was unexpected. So do we have enough people in? Any questions about how to get into the Kahoot? We got 15 people. We're back to where we were. And let's hope we don't get spammed. You guys ready to do this? Let's do it in the chats, and let's get started here. Let's see, wait. Let's hear some from some chat. Maya, let's make you a mod too. If we get some crazy people, you guys get to kick them out. Isabella, are you guys ready to do this in the chat? Want to hear all those questions? My people in the office will read me the questions. No one in the chat saying anything. First person in the chat says, let's do this, let's do this, let's do it, Kelsey. Okay, let's play the Kahoot. So, okay, so now I need to change this to, here we go, we're going to play Kahoot. Can they see the Kahoot now? Can you guys all see it? Okay, we're good to go, right? What are the degrees of freedom for the t interval? Thank you guys for reading me everything. So the degrees of freedom for this t interval, this is just a t interval here. All this is a t interval, as I get the hiccups to start. Just a t interval. How do we find the degree intervals for a one sample t interval? Now, I might be saying it in the chat right now, but the degrees of freedom for a one sample t interval would be what? You guys know the formula? What's the formula? N minus 1. So the degrees of freedom were 769. Does that make sense? Yeah. For a one sample t, the degrees of freedom are n minus 1. So I wonder if I hit show media, if it'll show the question again. Oh, great. I didn't even know I could do that. There's a lot of stuff. If you guys monitor the chat, you guys control everything right now. But the answer was 769 because for a one sample t. And questions for this would be things like, what are the height of UT students? What is the GPA of UT students? How long did someone wait in the waiting room? You see, these are all one sample mean questions. This looks like GPA data because it's got the mean and standard deviation. But when we do a t-test, it must be quantitative data. So this is t-test with quantitative data. And if anyone says anything in the chat, you guys read it off to me. If it's like, hey, Brian, this. Thank you guys so much. You guys ready for the next question? Let's do it. Make sure to ask those questions between questions. We've got a good many questions to cover here. Fuzzy dolphin. I like it. Okay, so we got the type 1 error again. This one's going to be an easy one. We'll see if it's the twig story again. So you know you're walking out in the woods, and your friend's like, dude, that is so a snake. But you would say to your friend, oh no, we're getting crazy people. Hopefully not too crazy. You know when you see something in the woods, what would you assume as a null hypothesis? Your null would be what? What would be the null for something in the woods? The null would be that something in the woods is what? A twig or a snake? A twig. So the null is that something is a twig. The alternative would be it's a snake. And this is just kind of general wording. So with the null that it's a twig and the alternative that it's a snake, what would be a type 1 error? So we have to practice here. In a type 1 error, the null is what? In a type 1 error, the null is what? True. In a type 2 error, the null is what? False. And we fail to reject it. So you have to ask yourself, in a type 1 error with the null being true, if we were to reject the null, what would you say to it being a twig? You would say you think it's a twig or you don't think it's a twig if you reject.
You don't think it's a twig.
You don't think it's what?
A twig.
Correct, because the null is it's a twig, and you're going to reject that in a type 1, because in a type 1, the null is true, and we reject the null. So which one of these sounds like it to you? Well, you would think it's a what? You're going to, in a type 1 error, you're going to what it being a twig, because that's the null. No. In a type 1 error, the null is true, but we what the null? Reject. So I say I reject it's a twig. I have evidence it's a snake. So you'll have to tell me if they have questions, if the onliners have questions, because it's going to be very hard to tell who knows this or not.
I don't see any questions.
Good deal. Thank you guys for monitoring that. So pretty good job there. Hopefully we did pretty well. But ask questions if you have it. Remember, in a type 1, the null is true and we reject it. In a type 2, the null is false and we fail to reject it. So you would think it's a snake, but it's not. Remember, we would reject the null that it is a twig, and we would have evidence it's a snake, but that's a rejection of a true null. In a type 1, it's truly a what in a type 1? It is actually a twig, but you're going to do what to that?
Reject it.
And say you have evidence for the alternative. That is right. Continue on here. Bronze Bunny leading the way. I don't even know. We don't allow fake names, so who knows? What is the missing t ratio? This is a great question right here with the missing t ratio. So what is the missing t ratio, and how would we find the missing t ratio? So to find this missing t ratio here, what would we do? Well, what is the t ratio? The t ratio is found by a formula. The difference, and what do we do to a difference every time we do a test? What do we do to a difference every time with a test? We take that difference and what it? When we have a difference, difference doesn't have context till we what it? S word. Not square root it, but standardize it. When we have a difference, we need to standardize that difference. And if you look, this is an interesting difference in standard error of a difference. It's almost like I wanted it to turn out a certain way, because you have negative 0.23 and 0.023. Now remember, as I hover over this, if you take this difference and divide it by the standard error, you're actually doing the formula for the t ratio, because the difference standardized is the t ratio. The difference standardized is the t ratio. So what do you notice that this difference standardizes basically? What is 0.23 over 0.023? Remember, it's negative 0.23. They're basically the same number. Wouldn't that basically be it's just a tenth of it? It's like 10 over 1. So what should the answer be? Negative 9.93. Yes, pretty good job there. So all we're doing to find the t ratio, this number right here is just difference over standard error of difference. You've also got some other stuff in here which is pretty good. Like you've got the confidence interval, 95% confidence interval. Degrees of freedom are very high. So if you were to times this by 1.96, what would you get? If you were to times 0.023 by 1.96, basically 1.96, what would you obtain? What is 0.023 times 1.96? Hint, the standard error times the t is the what? They might be saying it online. I do not know.
Standard error times t ratio is difference, right?
Nope. Standard error times t ratio is the margin of error. Because that's the last part of the equation. Everything after the margin of error is t times standard error. So if you were to times this, you'd probably get something like, if you notice down here, do you notice that 0.23 and 0.275? If you times this by 2, you basically get, 5% or 4.5% if you times it by 1.96, and you would actually get the margin of error. So you could find out exactly if you wanted, or 46, and you would add it to that. So you would get the margin of error, and you could add and subtract that from the difference. Let's continue on. They'll tell me if there's any questions, but ask those questions if you got them. Bronze bunny. What happened to our fuzzy dolphin? Epic ant. Find the missing value. I love these ones in jump output. This might be a contingency table. Oh, we just did this today. You guys got this. There's so much time. I put too much time on this question. If you notice, the value you're finding is a what? The value you are finding is a what value? Expected value. So you have to find an expected value for this question. With trying to find an expected value for this question, you have to remember the formula. Now you are given a formula sheet for the test, but with the expected value right here, we need to do row total times column total over grand total. You need to narrow in on the row total for this one being here, and the column total being right here, and those are your two top numbers, row total times column total over grand total, and just row total times column total over grand total. We've got so much time on this question. I'm going to try to solve them slower next time, but you will get one of these 2 or 3 or 4 answers right here and see if you can get it. Can I actually guess? I guess I could guess. Am I playing right now? I do not know. But row total times column total over grand total equals the expected. If you notice, a lot of these cell chi-squareds down here are very small. The cell chi-squareds are very small, which is not part of this question, but we can talk about it, because the observed and the expecteds are very close. So do you guys think the p-value, what do you think the test chi-squared would be? Very high or very low for this chi-squared test? Would this one have a very large or small test chi-squared? Very small, because you add up all the cells, right? Ah, nice job, everybody. And if we were to add up all these cell chi-squareds, you see it adds up to like 0.3, right? So if we add up all the cell chi-squareds, we'd get a very small chi-squared test statistic, which means the p-value would be very what? Ooh, is a good question. If we add up all the cell chi-squareds and get a very small chi-squared test statistic, the p-value would be very If the chi-squared test statistic is small, the p-value will be very, very high, very large. Because remember, we have to land far up. The chi-squareds are the differences we are observing. So when we observe large differences, those are unlikely by random chance. I missed my screen where I can see the chat. You guys tell me if they're saying anything. I'm sorry, guys. I can't see what you're saying. Luckily, we got that crazy percent. Bronze Bunny leading the way. Looks like we got 2 people with perfect answers. I do not know. To make a confidence interval for the true proportion, what is a condition that must be met? Ooh, I like this one. To make a confidence interval for the true proportion, what is a condition that must be met? To make a confidence interval for the true proportion, what is a condition that must be met? So I see a lot of conditions on here. I see a lot. I don't want to give it away. What are 2 conditions on here that must be met to make a confidence interval for the true proportion that we don't have on here? Condition 1. Condition 2. Less than 10% of the population sampled. And then we have to pause. We have to do a large pause here, and we have to stop. And we have to say, if we are doing a confidence interval for the true proportion, if we are doing a confidence interval for the true proportion, then what kind of data are we dealing with? Pretty much. Categorical. 1 prop z interval. And since it's categorical, the condition must be the what condition? Success failure. We must have at least 10 successes and at least 10 failures. How do we do here? Pretty good. Now I know we just learned the expected cell count. The expected cell count is for categorical chi-squared test of independence. The nearly normal is only for what kind of data? What kind of data do we use nearly normal on? Quantitative. So means, right? When we do t intervals or 2-sample t interval, we use quantitative nearly normal. And so this is a good check right here. Lots of conditions that we've talked about, but the success failure is only for categorical, just univariate categorical data. Categorical is expected cell chi-squared, expected cell count. Count data is also chi-squared test of independence. Nearly normal is just quantitative data, and success failure is categorical only. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask them, but I feel like there's a lot of notes taken right now. Good job. Caring piranha. This is nice right there. Nice happy piranha. Oxymoron. What is your decision regarding the null? So let's see here. Oh my gosh, I like this one. It's a 60-second one. But remember, now both of these coincide, and we just did this today. What will we do to the null right here? I don't want to give it away. I'm going to talk about this a little bit. So here we have the chi-squared test of independence. The Pearson has your p-value here. So whenever you see this, you would just look to the Pearson for your p-value, hence this is your p-value. This chi-squared right here is the sum of all the cell chi-squareds. So that is all the cell chi-squareds added together. Now there's a bad word that we never say in this class.
Except.
We never say that. Never, 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 never. We've narrowed it down to 2 choices. Since we've narrowed it down to 2 choices now, when the p-value is high, and there we see a high p-value right here. So just let it fly. What do we mean by let it fly? Just fail to reject it, let it be. Just don't reject it. So you can say do not reject the null. I'm fine with that. We do not say accept because that means it sounds like proven. Whoa, did everyone answer? I guess if everyone answers, it completes the question. There's no more answers. Good job. And remember, accept is the bad word we never use. Do not write that on the test, whatever you do. Do not write accept. Let's go here to the next question. Remember, ask them if you have them. My helpers will help me out if we have them. Caring piranha. Nice job. Say your conclusion to this test out loud. I got to hear this in the office right now. You ready for this? Okay. Just don't click the I didn't do it. Oh, is this one I've made a mistake on? I think one of them only gives points. I feel like I was making a mistake. So what do we see right here? We have broken a bone and gender. So we need to get the conclusion to this in context of the problem. Do you guys know how to write the null and alternative to this? We've got gender and breaking a bone. What's the null and alternative to this one? Give me the full thing in context. The null and alternative in context.
They are independent.
Give full context. Give full context.
So, breaking a bone is independent of gender.
Breaking a bone is independent of gender?
And breaking a bone is not.
Breaking a bone is not independent of gender. We just put that between. So now that we know our null and alternative, we can give the context of the conclusion. So all we have to say is we have to decide looking at this p-value. So remember what we just did last time? Are we going to reject or not reject? Look at the p-value. Going to reject. So tell me, just read it off to me like you've got the full thing written out. I what?
I reject the null hypothesis that breaking bone is independent of gender. association between breaking a bone and gender.
Nice job. I reject the null that breaking a bone and gender are independent of each other. I have sufficient evidence. I like that. I have sufficient evidence that breaking a bone and gender are not independent. Or you could say dependent, or you could say association. I like to just keep to the independent, not independent. Nice job. Hopefully this is one of the ones. Yes. Someone said they didn't do it. Well, thank you for being honest. But if you didn't do it, you don't get the points. No one says I didn't do it. Well, honest, I should give you more points for honesty right there. But yeah, if you didn't do it, you don't get points. So that's all right. It's just a game. We're all good. But I'm glad the 3 got points. The 3 answers did. All right, let's go on to the next one. Caring Piranha did it. Oh my gosh, you were destroying it, Caring Piranha. What are 3 things that control power? Oh my gosh, not the one used to solve for power. What are 3 things that control power? Not the 3 things that not one of the things that solves for power. That's key. It's not one of the things that solves for power. So let's think about this right here. We got a bunch of answers again, but here we are with we have 4 things. Well, let's go back to our in-class example. When we talked about someone being sick, we talked about how much blood we could collect from them. And if we collected more blood, that would be a better way to analyze if they're sick. Because power is the ability to correctly reject the false null, or the ability to find results when there are results. Because if the null is false, we should reject it, and there's results to be found, and power is the ability to find these results. So when I talk about collecting more blood from someone, I'm talking about changing the what? Sample size, and we can control that like we talked about in our project. What about if we had a different threshold for how sick we would eventually say they are sick, like to what point they have to be sick? If we have a different threshold for the evidence we require, I'm talking about changing your what? Alpha level. What about, oh, gotta slow down because we got 26 seconds.
Someone saying, never mind. They're saying, can you say it again? But I don't know what they're talking about.
Sure, ask me to say something again if you want. We'll repeat it.
Again, please. If you're in the office, can you please
Sorry, I just...
And the last thing is the effect size. These are the 3 things that control. Beta is the one that does not control. What are they saying in the chat?
They said if you're in the office, can you please tell him when we say something?
I have no idea.
Before this one.
Let me see. I'm going to see what they said in the chat.
So the question.
If you're in the office, can you please tell him when we say something?
The question.
Oh, like repeat it?
Yeah, the question before this one.
Oh, okay. Are they asking me just to repeat
Sorry,
what is?
we just made you butcher that.
That's all right. They're asking me to repeat what is said,
The
right?
question before this one, the null one.
Uh-huh. So I hope you, did you guys understand the last null one where we said, I reject the null that breaking a bone and gender are independent. I have evidence that breaking a bone and gender are not independent. And yeah, they'll read out everything to me, and I'll try to repeat what they say. Is that what they want me to do? Because I hopefully repeated it enough, because they can't hear you guys that well probably. But I think they just want me to repeat what is said in the office. Is that it?
Yeah.
I think so. Did you guys
Sorry
understand?
about that.
That's all right. No worries. I mean, we're just having fun in here. We're just
Sorry,
reviewing.
guys.
So, are there any questions related to this one? Are there any questions? So I can't personally see the chat right now, but they're helping me out with anything you guys say. So I think we're good. We know the 3 things that control power are the following. Beta is actually the probability of what? Beta is the probability of a... I don't know if they're saying in the chat. You guys can say in the chat. They'll read it off to me if so. Well, alpha is the probability of a what? Alpha is your rejection rate. Alpha is the probability of a type 1 error, so beta is the probability of a...
Type 2.
And then power is the formula 1 minus beta, which is everything but making a type 2 error. So 1 minus beta is power. So these things control beta. Beta is power. But the 3 things that control beta are sample size, effect size, and alpha. Effect size is the true difference between the null and the truth, the difference between the null and the truth. We don't really control that one, but that is in the formula for beta. And feel free to tell me if there are any sorts of questions. We'll continue on. Caring Piranha leading the way. Find the missing p-value. Oh, I love these questions. I think these are just like that. This one is so quick. I should have given 30 seconds. We've already got 70 answers. Look, you see, that tells you how quick this one is. We start the question and we get 70 answers like that. Like, amazing. Great job. I like it. I like it when I see 70 answers right away. You know how you'll know how to find p-values. So p-values have distinct relationships. When we look at the p-values, the two p-values below always add up to what? The two p-values below always add up to what value? The less than the greater than always add up to 1. But then the does not equals, which is the p-value for the absolute value, has to be what the smallest. So if we take the smallest, the does not equals is what the smallest. See, look, we got like 20 answers right away right there when I said that. The does not equals is what the smallest. Double the smallest. Because it's the two-tailed p-value right there. The two-tailed. Look at that. Well, I'm going to pause on this one for just a moment to show the media again. So with this right here, the does not equals alternative right here. The does not equals alternative. What we would have is we would double this right here to get the 0.0042. Remember that this two-tailed one, the does not equals, is double the smallest. Being able to read and understand this output. Now tell me this, would you reject the null here for this being 0.0042? Would you reject the null? And what are we testing between two means to see if the difference is equal to what? 0. Is 0 contained in this interval right here? Is 0 contained in the interval that is purely negative?
No.
No, so since 0 is outside the interval, you would reject it, and that coincides with your test. So understanding that right there, that is some good stuff. And feel free if they have questions online to read them. Oh gosh, is there anything under?
Someone just said yes, no.
Yes, no?
Goes on, message deleted.
Nice job. Good job, mods. What is the equation for the degrees of freedom in this problem? So what is the thing about this right here? We have male, female, and breaking a bone, yes or no. Look, everyone knows the equation right away. We have male, female, and breaking a bone, yes or no. So what is the formula for the degrees of freedom? I gave way too much time for this one. So what is the formula for the degrees of freedom here? What would be the formula? Now remember, you need to say to me, Brian, this is a what by what? Brian, this is a blank by blank. Is what? Uh-oh. Brian, this is a blank by blank.
2 by 2.
2 by 2. Brian, since this is a 2 by 2, that turns into a what by what?
1 by 1.
1 by 1. So since this is a 1 by 1, how many degrees of freedom are there? 1. And you can see that in the problem itself. You can see there's 1 degree of freedom, and the formula would be 1 times 1. So, what'd you do?
I said Wonderbat.
Oh no! Wonderbat is failing right now.
Is that you?
That's me.
Do we get to know who else is in here in the room? Look at how many people have joined our Kahoot. Awesome. So we have right here, remember, all you're doing is rows minus 1 times columns minus 1. So if you look at this, and here's something you got to be careful of. Notice that it is a 2 by 2. Do not be tricked by the total columns. A lot of people get tricked by those and think it's more than it is. But it's male, female, 2, broke bone, yes or no. And so that's 1 by 1. Those are the degrees of freedom. And that's got it. Pretty even spread across. If you have questions, feel free to ask them, even if it's from the previous question, and I will answer everything. My in-classers will tell me what's going on. Carrying Piranha, nice job. Oh, another what is the missing p-value? You guys should have this one right away. So here we are. Look at that. So this time we are doing the missing p-value, but it's for the less than test. So if you notice here, this is for the less than test. This is not the does not equals test. So once again, we see that these p-values here have distinct relationships. So when we have the less than and the greater than, those must add up to what?
1.
1. And we have so much time. While we're looking at this output here, let's just review it. What would we think about this? Do you see right here male minus female? That is this difference right here. So which mean was higher, male or female? Which mean was higher, male or female? How would we know? I mean, we see male minus female, and this is the difference. So which mean is higher? Any ideas? Well, the difference is negative. So which one do you think is higher? I don't know if they're saying in the chat, or does anyone know? If the difference is negative, then which one of those two means would be higher?
Someone said, what is the ID?
Oh, don't worry about that. Male minus female. So which of those two would be higher? If the difference,
Males.
not male.
Someone said females.
It'd be female because it'd be female because the difference is negative. What is 8 minus 10? What is 8 minus 10? Negative 2. What is 10 minus 8? So if the difference is negative, it's because female is higher than male. Pretty good job. We're back on track. And they'll read me the questions in between each one. So if you have a question, write it out while we're doing the question itself, and I will answer anything if it's about the output or whatever you like. Here we are with the next Caring Panda. Caring Piranha. Oh no, Caring Piranha. Caring Piranha in 3 in a row. Nice. Is back in the game. Caring Piranha is leading the way. Interpret the interval in context of the problem. So, we got another one of these I did it. But this right here is the GPA of UT students. So I need you guys to practice this right now. Remember how we interpret intervals? I am blank % confident that the blank is contained in the interval blank to blank. Does that make sense? So you guys need to practice this right now. You need to be able to write it or say it. Because if you can say it, you can write it. But you just need to be able to do it. I am blank % confident that the blank is contained in the interval blank to blank. Does anyone here in the office want to try it? And I'll repeat it at the end. Go ahead.
I am 95% confident that the mean of 3.8.
The true mean.
That the true mean of 3.8 is contained in the... No?
No. It's all right. We're here to practice today.
Is
So we don't know the true mean. So this is the sample mean right here. That's just the sample mean. So that's just from the sample statistics. So when we do part 2, we will always say the true mean GPA of UT students or something like that. We don't know the truth, do we? Because we're making our interval to estimate. So here, we'll try it again. Go ahead. I am
95% confident that
the true mean
GPA. Mean GPA is contained in the interval 3.8 to 3.81 to 3.85.
Yeah. I am 95% confident that the true mean GPA of UT students is contained in the interval 3.817 to 3.849. I am 95% confident that the true mean GPA of UT students. What is the symbol for true mean? True mean is the symbol what? Mu. And that's what we're estimating right here. Do we know the true mean? No, that's why we're making an interval. This is just our sample estimate, which is actually the center of the interval. If you notice 8.17 and 8.49, or 3.817 and 3.849 have in the center of it 3.833. So that's got it. And look, I think one of the I did it's was wrong. This is the one. Did we lose Caring Piranha? Woo! We still got Caring Piranha is leading the way. I'm so sorry. I knew one of these had a problem. I totally knew it when we started up. So up 565 places. Oh, nice job. Fun times. What is the null for the test? Remember, the biggest part of this is to review. What is the null? Oh, we got this. I gave this away earlier. I mean, look at how many answers we got. Everyone knows this. So what is the null for this test? What is the null? I'm going to grab a piece of candy here while we do this. What is the null for this test? Do we have Moz in the chat knocking it out?
A little bit.
So it said you're probably some loser behind his computer screen. Brian doesn't even know what's going on.
Don't worry about those people. Yeah, don't worry about the trolls. Yeah. You guys got the powers. So you guys got all the power. You guys can time them. You can time them out infinitely. You guys have all the power. The fun of the internet. I took my break because I already gave away this answer. Gender is independent. The null is independent. Remember that. And here's the key to doing this one. Gender is independent of breaking a bone. Gender is not independent of breaking a bone. We just put the one word. If you're confused about when to use which null and which alternative, just remember, all you need to do is just see the mosaic plot. Mosaic plot and contingency table, well, that means you're doing chi-squared test of independence. You'll also see chi-squared. So, I mean, couldn't get more obvious than that. Chi-squared test of independence is the independence one, and you just say they're independents. If you know it's the chi-squared test of independence. How many did we get? Well, pretty even across the board. That's all right, though. I'll trust you guys know that one because we've covered it a lot. How are we doing Caring Piranha? My gosh, we had one person lead the way last time. I'm wondering if it's the same person. I want to know because they destroyed it last time, and we got over the one hurdle where Brian made a mistake.
Reveal yourself.
Reveal yourself, Caring Piranha. We'll find out later. Oh, we got another what is a p-value. I think this is the last of what is the p-value. Oh, good. I just want you to look at this output and tell me what is the p-value. And we've seen this in class where sometimes it's hard to identify the p-value. So remember, if you've asked me things in class, you're like, hey, wait, what's the p-value? I get that question a lot, and that's all right. So when you want to look at the p-value here, which value should you be looking at? Well, the biggest thing is knowing that p-values are what? The biggest thing is knowing that p-values are, well, yes, it's with your Pearson. The p-value is with your Pearson, and a p-value is a probability. So the p-value is a probability. Computer is speeding up. The p-value is a probability. Is everything still broadcasting, guys?
Yeah, my Kahoot.
It should work in a second here. You already answered? But it still shows the broadcast on YouTube?
Yes.
Cool. So let me show the media again here. So with this p-value right here, the p-value is merely the one connected to the Pearson. So the p-value is the probability greater than chi-squared. Does that make sense to everybody right there that the Pearson has the p-value connect in the dots, and we should be good. Let's continue on to the next question. Carrying Prana leading the way. I don't know. I have random names assigned. Interpret the difference right here. So with this right here, to interpret this difference, we need to just do what? Let's try to figure out how to do it. Interpreting this difference, what do? This is the difference of males versus females, right? We talked about this earlier. It's a good review question. To talk about the difference of male minus female, right? Which one of these two means is higher? And how would we know this? Is male higher? Would male be higher? If the difference is what, males will be higher.
It's females are higher.
Females are higher because the difference is negative. Because remember, 8 minus 10 would be a negative number. So right here we see, do you guys know what 45 divided by 15 is? It's about 3. Negative 3 if you make it negative. So we see here that females have a higher mean than males. So the difference of male minus females is negative. So females have a higher mean than males. Does it show, once again, that it's having problems again? It signed you out of Kahoot. No one said anything? It shows that very few people answered this one.
So maybe they all had to reload themselves.
Yeah. It cannot recognize the game pin?
My Kahoot throws me to throws sad face.
So,
It throws. Someone put.
yeah, someone's totally.
What does that mean?
They were just trying to spam us and crash us. Because they can do that when they get access to it. So here, wait. Yeah, that's what. Let's see. So let's. What did they do? Yeah, the Inception. I like the Inception. Let's go to face cam right here. So we got through a lot of the questions. Let me see here. If I can, so we got through, right now we got green screen shirt on, so we're just green screening the background. So what are there online questions about right now? We got through a lot of the questions. We got through over half of them, and so, because people just like to crash Kahoots, because that's what they do for fun. But what questions are there right now about anything related to it? And we might try this again a little bit later. I'm putting some safety guards later. See, the thing is, it has the random name generator on there, but man, people just like to. How long? We only got 30 minutes in a review. Let me do this. So right now I'm just face broadcasting, right? Are you watching the YouTube channel? What's up? Cool. Let me do this. Let me go to Kahoot. And so.
Can you go over how to find the p-value in the table again?
The p-value in the table, yeah. So I think, yeah, we'll do that. So It also does not show which ones we've done or not done. So the p-value in the table again, sure, let's do that. Let's do it. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do something right here. Here's what we're gonna do. Since we're mainly concerned about knowledge, hey, one of you guys, I want you to enter this in. One of you guys, I want you to enter this in. Who still has their Kahoot up? No, your phone Kahoot.
Well, I have it on my computer.
We could probably, I just need one person to go to Kahoot on their phone. Do you have it up right there? And you just come over here, and if you want to see this number right here, we come to this field of view to be on camera, so we don't get a camera thing to the side. Enter this in to start the Kahoot. I'm going to start it, and I'm just going to have you in. I'm going to go through the rest of the questions. Yeah. So I got it, and then it should hit start. Yep, hit start spin. Oh, and then it has you take the name, and then hit OK. Yay! Okay, then you're in. So there we go. And let me show back here to the... Okay, now we've got it back on. Let's see here. So you can pick whatever you want. If someone wanted to write a null using this data, oh, I like this one a lot. Okay, we're back, guys. So we're back showing again, and but I'm sorry, not everyone can play right now. That's all right, but we do have this going on right here. So with this right here, if someone wanted to write a null for this data, what null could they use? This is a great question from today. So what null could they use? Any ideas? The mean, right? Because that's what we're analyzing. So we've got ones that would not be used, like two means, right? This is actually pretty much all of your nulls and alternatives. This is nonsense because a proportion can't be more than one, right? So with this right here, this is the only one that will work. Oh, that's all right. I know you're the only one playing, so when you answer, okay. I actually told you to answer. I was like, you can answer, and I totally forgot if you answer. But since we're analyzing the mean here, this would just be an analysis of the mean. Does that make sense? The null would be mu equals 3.8. We could have an alternative, does not equal, or stuff like that. Nice job. What is the alternative hypothesis for the two-sided test? I like this. We're getting all different ones. So what is the alternative hypothesis for the two-sided test? And which one did I do here? Let's see here. Oh, I think this one has multiple answers, right? This is a really great review question because we've got, two-sided test. I was thinking two-sample test. For the two-sided test, when we do a two-sided test, does not equal. And this is good review right here because remember your nulls and alternatives, what I wrote at the end of class today, with mu equals P equals mu1 minus mu2 equals 0, or is independent. Those are important ways to write the null and alternative. And when we use notation, we would use mu1 minus mu2, P, or we'd write is independent, which is really not notation. You're just going to write x is independent of y, x is not independent of y. And so now we have right here the difference between two means, and since it's two-sided, is not equal to 0, which is the two-sided. So let's go. If you want to click that one if you like, I think we've got that. If they have questions in the chat, feel free to ask. Are you guys still looking at the chat, any?
No one said anything.
Cool. They asked what the pin is?
I think those are the bots.
Yeah, those were the bots, people. Hey, we got another find the missing value. So let's look at this. We've gotten all different questions right here. With this find the missing value one, how would we do this one? Well, what value are we missing? We're missing a what? We're missing a cell chi-squared, right? Does that make sense? We're missing a cell chi-squared. Since we're missing a cell chi-squared, what's the formula? Observe
minus expected squared over expected.
Nice job. Observe minus expected squared over expected. And all we need to do here is take these numbers. It looks like it's going to be 3.895 squared, which is like 15, maybe. And then 15 divided by expected, which is 131. That's the expected. And that's going to be a little bit more than 10%, just a little bit more, probably in the neighborhood of, I think it's going to be this answer right here. But take a moment, we won't click it yet. But I think it's going to be that one, just because we're doing observe minus expected, and these are these two numbers, squared, which is the difference between these. You can just look at the difference. Doesn't matter which order you subtract them. So 4 squared is 16, and it's a little bit less, so 15. And 15 over this if we were to solve. And so I think it's going to be the yellow. Feel free to click the yellow if you want, and let's see. Was it yellow? Yes! Observed minus expected squared over expected. Here's your observed, here's your expected, and you can check any of these other ones if you want. But the formula observed minus expected squared over expected. We might skip a question or two.
Can you show the numbers in the equation?
They want to show that? Okay, here, let's go. I don't think we can go back. Oh no! The numbers are 128. We already did this one anyways. The numbers are 128 minus 131.895 squared over 131.895. So it's 128 minus 131.895 squared, like the whole thing squared, the difference squared over 131.895. I think that should hopefully make sense to everybody. And you can kind of rewind the video if you want to see those numbers again. But the observed, O, is 128. The expected is 131.895. Observed minus expected. Square that quantity, and then over expected, 131.895. We did that one, so we can skip it. What is the null hypothesis? I think we did this one too. This is a good double review right here. The null hypothesis would be, oh, we didn't do this one. Well, the null always has the what sign. I mean, this is an obvious one when you know it. The null always has the equals, except for the last chapter where we did is independent, is not independent. So only in the last chapter did we break the rules and we just said it is independent, it is not independent. So that is the only one we broke the rules on. But remember, we'll always have P equals, mu1 minus mu2 equals 0, because we're always just going to test for a difference of 0, even though technically we could change it. And why is this 2 means? Because we're analyzing what here? Why is this 2 means? We're analyzing a mean for who and who? Male and female. So you have the analysis of 2 means right here, which is a 2-sample t-test. So we're analyzing 2 means. It's important to be able to identify the problems. With the formula page you'll be getting, you'll be like, oh, I'm just looking at 2 means. Well, let me analyze the difference between 2 means. And as we said earlier, we do see a difference because 0 is not in the interval, and we would reject 0 on the two-tailed test. Also, we have evidence that females have a higher mean than males. I think this was GPAs, and once again, sorry guys, they're about 0.05 higher than us. So, sure. Yay, nice job. Getting them all correct. Sorry guys, you're leading the way. Which of the following conditions must be met for all confidence intervals and tests? Nice and easy one right here. So the confidence interval, when we do confidence intervals and tests, what conditions must be met? Any idea? Like any confidence intervals, any tests? There's 2 of them. Randomness, 10%. Those are just when we do condition 1, condition 2, random and 10%. So technically 2 right answers, but nearly normal is only when the data is what? Nearly normal is only when the data is? For t-test, which is quantitative, right? Which we kind of also have the large enough condition, which is part of the nearly normal, which is quantitative. But when do we use success failure? When the data is categorical. Nice job. So go ahead and click one. Yay! You got it. Oh no! You clicked one of the ones that it's all right. But random and 10% are conditions that must be met. And if they have questions, feel free to ask them. What is the null for this test? We already did this one. Find out the hard way. We did this one, so we'll skip it. Once again, just put the word is independent, is not independent. I like this today. It's like an easier chapter, but that's a little bit easier. What is the p-value for this test? I think we've already done this too. We're probably nearing, we've done most of them. The p-value is where now the chi-squared is not your p-value. That is just the chi-squared test statistic. What is this chi-squared like? We learned 2 other things that it's like. It comes from a distribution, so it's like a blank or like a blank. It's very close to might as well just be like what are those 2 other distributions we have? William Gosson invented one while he was working at Guinness Beer. He made it in the t distribution, the student t distribution. Then we have that other one that the student t is basically based on. What is that distribution? It's the one we started out with, the one that every distribution wants to be. Correct, the z, which is the normal distribution. So the chi-squared is like a t or a z. It's a test statistic. We talk about the t statistic or the z statistic, and the answer is that the p-value is 0.5609, because the Pearson has your p-value. So feel free to click if you want. And onliners will ask questions if they have it. Interpret the difference. So I'll go ahead and interpret the difference right here. When we interpret this difference, we see that the difference is negative, which what we have here is the sample mean of males minus the sample mean of females. Now you say, wait, Brian, I thought we're trying to figure out the true difference. But what's our best guess of the true difference? The what difference? How would we have a guess at the true difference? By having a? What do you think is your best guess of the true difference? The difference we observe in the sample. So this is the difference between the sample mean of females and the sample mean of males. And since the difference is negative, the sample mean of females was this much higher than the sample mean for men. So the answer is blue. It's a review question, so I'm going to go a little bit quickly. Please ask any question you have on any of these, and I will stop. Also, maybe look at the chat at the end and get video inception if I do that. Which of the following must be met for all? Oh, this is easy. If we're doing quantitative intervals, what must be met? So when we do quantitative, what must we meet for tests and intervals when we do quantitative? Nearly normal. But remember, because it's oh, there we go. It's still up there. That's a great one. Remember, if it's quantitative, the distribution must look nearly normal. So that is key right here. I don't know. Have they asked anything online, or is it? How's the chat doing? Nothing. Silence in the chat. Kind of more of a video lecture right now, but that works. I hope people are learning, and I hope you guys like this. So, doing it story time. What is a type 1 error? If this isn't the tree one, it's still the twig one. It's still the twig one, and it is. We think it's a snake, but it's not because we reject the null. Type 1, the null is true. Type 2, the null is false, and we fail to reject it.
Can you go over that one?
Sure. Harold, what is the equation for the degrees of freedom? This is just, it's 1 by 1. So we'll skip that one. Okay. So when we talk about type 1, type 2 error, so anything you guys want to hear me review, I'll review concepts, I'll review everything. Just say, hey, Brian, go over this, and I'll talk about it. Type 1, type 2 error. If you write down on your sheet of paper, HO, it's a twig. HA, it's a snake. So you should have HO, it's a twig. HA, it's a snake. Now with that in mind, in a type 1, the null is true. So just look at your sheet of paper and say, it is true that it is a what? So you should have HO, twig, HA, snake. In a type 1, the null is true. So look at your sheet of paper and say, it is true that this is a twig. But you're going to make an error and say that it is a snake. And does that make sense? In a type 1, the null is true. So you just make sure you have your null written down. You make sure you have your alternative. And you say, it is true that this is a twig. But I'm going to think it's a snake. In a type 2, the null is false. So I want you to look at your paper and say, it is false that this is a what? Twig. So it's actually a what? But you're going to think it's a... You're right, because you have to make the error, right? Whoops, just broke the whole table. So in a type 2 error, the null is false, but we fail to reject it. So you're going to think it's a twig because the null is false. It's actually a snake, and you're going to fail to reject that it's a twig. You're going to say, I think it's a twig, and then it's really a snake. So that's the key thing right here. In a type 1, the null is true, and we reject it mistakenly. In a type 2, the null is false, and we fail to reject that. And I think we make a lot of type 1 errors in the woods, I would say, actually, because usually you think something is a snake, right? You're like, oh, it's a snake, and then you're like, oh, it's just a twig. So that would be a type 1 error right there, because there's a lot of twigs in the woods. You should assume something is a twig till you have evidence it's a snake. And which of the following must be met for the chi-squared test of independence? Ooh, good stuff here. Which of the following would be met for a chi-squared test of independence? There's 2 answers to this. Starting on the top left, when do we use success failure? For what kind of test in intervals? Categorical, proportion stuff. Going down to expected cell count, that sounds like something we did today. And the chi-squared test of independence uses categorical data, which has cells. Then next we have the nearly normal condition, which is only for what kind of data? Quantitative is when we test means. So it has to be like, what is the height? What is the weight? What is the GPA? All that stuff. Last but not least, we have count data. And that's chi-squared because that means both variables are what? Both variables are, to make count data, both variables would have to be categorical. Count data literally means both variables are categorical. And you have to have it. So both variables would be categorical. So the answers are expected cell count and count data. That's all right. What is the missing value of the difference? Oh, I like this question. I don't think we did this one yet, but it's a reverse solve problem. We did one just like it. But actually, to find the difference, you can actually just multiply these two numbers. Because remember, what you basically have here is an algebra problem of x over this equals this. Does that make sense? Because you have this over this equals this right here. So you would just solve x over this equals this, and all you would need to do is multiply these two numbers together right here. Because if you think about this as the barrier between the two sides, you can just multiply both sides by 0.023. And doing that would get you the difference. Because difference over standard error equals t ratio. And that's one of the formulas we see. Difference over standard error equals t ratio. And that is the formula. And the answer would be, go ahead, negative 0.23. Yeah, nice job. And for those following along, remember this is recorded. You can go back and watch it and try to solve. But you get to see the right answers and practice right here. I hope everyone, there's no questions in the chat. Find the missing p-value. Oh, we've done a lot of these. Probably I'll skip over this. It's just double. This is the does not equals alternative, which is double the smallest. You wouldn't want to, this question's come up a lot so far, you wouldn't want to double the bigger one because that would be over 1. You just don't do that. You double the smaller, and since this is 0.0021, the answer would be 0.0024. Double the smallest. So that is the p-value, the blue one. Yay! Let's see what we have next. What is your decision regarding the null? I think we've done this one. Looks like we would fail to reject the null. We've got the bad A words. I'm going to skip that one just because we've done it a bunch already. What is the alternative for this test? We might be nearing the new problems. We've still got the tree problem we haven't seen yet. Gender is independent of breaking a bone. So that would be, oh, we want the alternative. Gender is not independent, right? The null is independent. The alternative is not independent. Nice job. We've done that one a lot. Interpret the interval in context of the problem. I'm going to pause on this one because I really want to make sure people get this down. When we do this one right here, the first thing is the easy part. I am, and then we'd get the confidence from here. I am, I'm trying to make it a big thing. I don't know why it does that sometimes. I am 95% confident that and this is where we have to pause. And we don't give a value here. We just say, what am I analyzing? And we are analyzing the GPA of UT students. So would we analyze the proportion, the true proportion for the GPA of UT students? We'd analyze the true what? The true mean of UT students. So I am 95% confident the true mean of UT students. And you should always say true something. And that means for the population, the true proportion, the true mean, the true difference between the mean of children's serial minus adult serial, which is what we did in our assignment. The true mean of the true mean heart rate for, I think that's one. No, the true mean, the true proportion of children who are deficient in vitamin D. Do you guys remember that one? Or we could do the true proportion of people who will pay their loans back on time. Or there's so many different ones we've done. I'm trying to think of other ones for the mean one because I've done all these problems a lot. But I am 95% confident the true proportion, oh gosh, I broke my brain there. I'm 95% confident the true mean GPA of UT students is contained in the interval 3.817 to 3.849. When I said proportion and then I saw the numbers and I saw something outside of 1, my brain broke. It was like, error. So you should know that too. If it's proportions, it can only be between 0 and 1. It has to be. So watch out when you say something like true mean, and watch out if you see something like the true proportion of UT students' GPA. It doesn't quite make sense. Just read it to yourself out loud and be like, I am 95% confident the true mean GPA of UT students is contained in the interval 3.81 to 3.849. We usually do about 2 decimal places, but that's got it. Very important interpreting intervals. Oh no, you like reach for it and what is the missing p-value? We've done so many of these. So many. It's just half. It adds up to 1, so 0.00. And I did it, if you notice in the previous output, it was 0.0021, but it'd be 0.00205 because it's, half the smaller one. So, I mean, half the does not equals. Find the missing value. I think we've done this one. It's, we did this one. It's just row total times column total over grand total. The mathematical equation, for those writing it down, I want to make sure it's out there if you're watching this part, would be 421 times 479 over 770. Circle your numbers. 421 times 479, those connect in on this because this is an expected, over 770. This is row total times column total over grand total. And that would be it. So the answer, oh no, take a guess. I think it's green. I think it's green. Oh, we were wrong. We just took a guess. All those numbers are so close, but it's red if you did the formula. So make sure you do the formula, and that's the answer. What does a hypothesis test on the mean, when doing a hypothesis test, which is a condition that must be met? So when we do a hypothesis test on the mean, you guys should know this like this. If we're testing the mean, what is a condition that must be met? This is a good question.
Nearly normal.
Nearly normal. So when we do quantitative, yes. And the other ones would be for proportions, and then the bottom two are for what? Chi-squared test of independence. So this is, I did a lot on conditions here because conditions are a big thing on the test. I did a lot on nulls and alternatives. So I really think these help if you know these just like that. Then you don't waste any time and you know you got them correct. What are three things that control power? Effect size, sample size, and alpha. So beta is not, or so the three things that are used to control power: effect size, sample size, and alpha. How much data you collect, the point at which you reject, and the true difference between the null and the truth, or the difference between the null and the truth. So any one except the red. Anyone except red. Yay! And effect size you don't control, but it still controls power. You just can't change the difference between the null and the truth. Winding up, say your conclusion out loud. I think are we gonna reject or fail to reject? I reject the null that gender is independent of breaking a bone. I have evidence for the alternative that gender is not independent of breaking a bone. And if you listen clearly to how I say that, all I'm saying is the null. The null that gender is independent of breaking a bone. The alternative that gender is not independent of breaking a bone. And before that I put I reject and I have evidence. So that is key. I reject the null that gender is independent of breaking a bone. I have evidence that gender is not independent of breaking a bone. And that's it. Seems like there's an association. Let's do it. What is the missing t-ratio? The t-ratio is the difference standardized, and we saw this earlier. So all we do is divide the difference by the standard error of the differences. And I made these numbers nice and neat because you notice it's basically a tenth. But also the t-ratio is positive or negative. Negative. And do you guys see how the p-value looks? Look how small the p-value is. Do you see that? Do you see it's so far outside? Would you reject the null here or fail to reject? You would definitely what? Reject. If we were to not reject the null, we'd land close to the difference of 0, which is what the null is. The null says the difference is 0. So the answer is going to be the yellow one. And there we go. That one's a previous solve, so I'm kind of doing a little quicker. Type 2 error. Ooh, one of the last questions here. Let's do it. Okay. So what is a type 2 error? Okay, oh no. So I'm going to make sure I get this right because this will reverse the type 1, type 2 if I get this wrong. The null would be that a tree is healthy until we have evidence it's sick. Do you just go about cutting down every tree you see? You'd only cut down a tree if what? If you had what? Evidence? Evidence that it's sick. So you should have a null written down. You should write HO right now. This is very good practice for the test. HO, tree is what? HO, tree is healthy. HA, tree is not healthy. And what would you do then? If you went to the alternative, you would what to the tree? If you had evidence for the alternative that the tree is not healthy, you would just think about what you would do in real life. If you said, I have evidence the tree is not healthy, you would cut it down. Does that make sense? If you didn't reject the null, what would you do to the tree? Not cut it down. There we go. So let's think about this now right here. In a type 1 error, the null is true. So what is true in a type 1? Just read it to me. In a type 1, the tree is healthy. But you would what the tree? Cut it down because you would think the tree is sick. In a type 2, the null is what?
False.
False. So tell me, it is false that the tree is, so the tree is actually sick, but you're going to what?
Not cut it down.
Not cut it down. Do you see the answer? So you're going to leave up the tree and it what? False. So we actually have a type 2 error on the screen right here. Nice job. The screen was showing a type 2 error, so bad times for them. In this type 2 error here, they left up a tree that they thought was healthy and it fell. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that is actually what I wanted to show right there was a type 2 error. You leave because in a type 2 error the null is false, but you fail to reject it.
Correct.
So what was the null again? The tree is
Healthy.
and you did not reject that, right?
Correct.
Which means if you made an error, the tree was actually
Sick.
and it's going to fall on your house. So there we go. Would you ever know if you made a type 1 error in this scenario? Would you know if you made a type 1?
No.
You would or would not?
You would.
You would? Wait, in a type 1, the null is true.
Yeah, if you put down a healthy tree.
I guess you might if you looked at it, right?
Yeah.
You're cutting it down, you look at the center of the tree, and you're like, oh, it's a really good tree. I guess. Nice job. I didn't even think about that. Like, you might know, or if you're good enough with trees, after you cut it down, you'd be like, oh, oops, that tree looked very healthy when I cut it down. It was really good wood. To make a constable for the true proportion, what condition must be met? What is it?
True proportion is 10%. No success failure.
Correct. And yes, random and 10%, but also success failure. I think that's got it. You aced it. No one was even close to you. First place. Thank you guys in the office. So I'll tell you what, you guys are such a big help. I mean, you guys didn't have to stay to help out with this. You guys controlled the chat a little bit. You helped with the Kahoot. I think Alex already maxed out, but I'm maxing out everyone else in the office. We just got 3 people helping out. I really appreciate it. You know, I really couldn't have done this without you guys. I couldn't have seen what was in the chat, or like if people had questions, and you guys helped, and we got it started up. So I hugely appreciate it, and you definitely helped the class. So are there any questions to the onliners right now? Let me go back to the video. We'll just go to face, and so now they're just seeing my face, and I'm green. I'm wearing a green shirt with a green screen effect on. So that's, you know, it's a smart move, right? So let's exit out of the full screen here. I don't know how many people we got watching. 9 watching. Did everyone just quit? Oh my god, what was going on with the chat?
The computer just died.
Were they just spamming us? Was it only at the end of the thing were they spamming us? Oh wait, it looks like they were actually answering questions.
Yeah, the end did.
Yeah, they came in at the end, did they?
Yeah.
Someone went crazy on the timing out.
Does YouTube automatically delete them?
No, someone was Isabella, did you have a question? I didn't hopefully, I'm sorry if I know this definitely taught me that when I do this, we need all those safeguards in. People are massive. Alex, I gave Alex a power trip. Alex is, thank you, Alex, for controlling it. It looks like the chat is very controlled. Just seeing what people, oh yeah. Sorry, bot raiders, but no. Yeah, so, see, look at that. See, that's why interesting, we've had bigger Kahoots and less trouble with bots. I like how I've got basically everyone who's watching as a mod. So like usually some chats don't have enough mods, but like I've got an endless stock of mods. And thank you, Alex. So
She said,
how do you find the T? Second to last question. Oh, so the T statistic, I believe, was that the output one? I don't know if I can review the video. The way you find the T is you take the difference and divide it by the standard error. See you tomorrow. It'd be difference divided by standard error. That's why I definitely learned that it's without the dual screen, it's a lot harder doing this because I can't see anything going on and see and respond. During the semester, we get so all it is the difference between the two means divided by the standard error, the difference between the two means, and that's the formula y bar 1 minus y bar 2 over standard error of the difference, which standard error of the difference is s sub 1 squared over n sub 1 plus s sub 2 squared over n sub 2 square root. And you will get that formula on the test. You will get all of that on the test. But the difference is y bar 1 minus y bar 2. The standard error of the difference is the square root s sub 1 squared over n sub 1 over plus s sub 2 squared over n sub 2. Great question, Isabel, though. Thank you for asking that. So it's just difference divided by standard error of difference. Good questions. I think we're down to just 8 more watching, so I'll probably turn off the Kahoot. Do you guys think that was helpful? Did it help with the conditions and everything? Kind of 1 hour review. Little bit of craziness. People said this helped last semester. They said it helped their grade. I'll turn off the thing if you don't want to be on camera. So I'm going to turn off the review. Goodbye, everybody. I'm going to stop streaming.